My tongue was on her inner wrist now, then a breath on her sweet neck. My lips found its way against her jaw.
Kiss her lips.
Focus. We need to heal her. Anywhere else? I asked, whispering into my mate's ear. She shook her head, still holding in her voice. How I wanted so much to hear her sweet reactions. How I wished this was more than just surface healing. I could hold her, and all her aches would ease. Mine too. She had no idea how much this was killing me, controlling myself and my wolf from doing what was infused into our instinct to do. The moon goddess herself had bound our souls. Ari, my one. I had to let her go. I wanted to scream. I held in my emotions, but I didn't move away. I wish I could make it all better. I'm sorry. She slowed her breathing and lowered the hands covering her face. Her beautiful blue eyes were filled with tears.
I know you're trying to protect me.
The sorrow in her voice tore me up inside. And yet, she wasn't begging to stay. You're crying. The emotions my touch had evoked in me were so inappropriate in contrast with reality. All the while, I was making her cry. Please understand. I need you to be safe. I can't. I stopped myself from admitting I can't live without knowing she's safe.
Reed?
Ari, you're My wolf was trying to make me say she was my mate, and I struggled to take back control. My wolf huffed in frustration but let go. You're my responsibility. I hoped I covered my tracks. I felt a moment of heaven as she brushed my cheek with her hand.
You're a good alpha. I trust your instincts.
Another tear crawled from her eyes down to her pillow. I wanted so much to kiss them away.
It's okay. If you think I should go, then that's what I'll do.
I was kicking her out and she was comforting me. I almost lost it. I almost confessed everything. I started to lean in closer, but I pushed myself off. The sudden separation of our bodies let the damp cold kill the heat that we had shared, leaving me feeling like I would never be warm again. She wiped her tears and stood up. Her scent told me the pain on her ankle had eased quite a bit. With shallow cuts, licking healed quickly, but with bruises, it only eased. Be careful. Even without pain, the healing would still take as long. She was able to walk without hobbling, at least.
Thank you. My ankle, well, everything really feels much better.
Yeah, that wasn't true. I could smell her heartbreak and rising fear. I really hated myself. If only she understood how much I loved her.
I know healing is meant for, well, not someone like me. I'm sorry I've been such a burden.
If she only knew. My voice tried to tell her, so instead I punched the stone wall. I broke bones. The loud thud and crack made her jump, but the pain gave me my control back. Let's go. I opened the door and stepped out before I scooped her up into my arms and begged for forgiveness.
Beg her to stay. Don't send her away.
I can't. She's not safe here.
Then let's just go with her.
I'm the alpha. I need to take care of our pack. You know this.
Then keep her close, in town.
No, Layla will find her too easily. We left out of the kitchen entrance and had to go around towards the front parking area. We were soaking wet by the time we got into my truck.
Where am I going?
Ari asked, slightly shivering in the blast of AC when I turned the engine. The city. I was still gritting my teeth against the pain in my knuckles as I adjusted the air. The wind was stronger once we passed the main gate. I focused as I drove through the downpour, ignoring my whimpering wolf. We drove in silence for nearly 10 minutes, then she softly said,
That was the outer perimeter marker. I guess that's the last time I'll be in territory.
The point was only marked by a small roadside stone. No come back soon sign, nothing noticeable by outsiders. Only the wolves knew what that marker meant. My heart almost crushed at the thought that Ari would never again be where I lived. After a few more miles of dark forest, the small town came into view. The pack has a place in the city. It's used in emergency situations. It'll do for now to keep you safe. I kept my tone as even as I could. It kept creeping up on me, this feeling of panic, something about rainstorms and abandonment. And I couldn't tell if the feeling was hers or mine.
Both.
After a while, Ari spoke up.
Can I ask you something?
Anything.
Why do you hate me so much?
I almost did a double take. Did she really think I hated her? I don't hate you.
The pack, I mean. I didn't choose to be a halfling. And what's wrong with halflings anyway?
The elders never told you?
No.
I debated whether or not to tell her.
Please?
How could I say no? Your father was my father's first beta.
My father was beta.
She seemed shocked. Remember how I told you they were best friends? They were so close, they considered each other to be like brothers.
But he went rogue.
She remembered. Was that anger? Disappointment? My dad took it really hard. He didn't trust himself to place his trust in anyone new, so he made Patrick beta and never replaced gamma.
Why would my father betray his best friend like that?
He met your mother. We were stopped at a red light. The wind and rain were really strong, but my focus was on her. Here I was, at the same crossroads Ryan was all those years ago. Loyalty to my father or to my heart. I took a long look at her. She was staring at the stoplight, focused on her thoughts. If only I could run with her. The light changed, but my conundrum didn't. I kept driving.
So, I'm more than a halfling. I'm a traitor's daughter.
No one else knows, Ari, but the elders remember. Small-town cafes and gas stations were spooky in this storm with darkened windows and only their neon signs on. No one else was out in this weather. Ari pointed out.
I've never been beyond this diner. I actually dreamed of going there. You know, maybe have some pie or something like that.
Your pies are much better.
Then maybe they would hire me.
It's too close to the territory, Ari. Her lower lip shook.
I don't know anything about out there.
I'll help you. Don't be scared. The small town was behind us now, and ahead was a long stretch of road winding through rolling hills. I couldn't see much through the heavy rain, and the gusts were sudden. My hands were white-knuckling the steering wheel, and my broken bones were having a hard time healing.
It's sad. My father sacrificed his home for nothing.
What do you mean?
He abandoned the pack, only for my mother to abandon me a few years later. And now...
She didn't have to finish the sentence for me to hear the rest. The pack was abandoning her. I don't have context, Ari, but the Lycan King was after your family. They might still be looking for you. Out here, I need you to live your life as a human. No more contact with the supernatural.
Even you.
Was it wrong that it boosted my ego that she worried more about separation from me than the pack?
She's our mate. She feels it. She has to.
I'll visit when I can. I still need to help you. I couldn't express how it soothed the sharpest edges of my broken heart that I would still have that to tie us together. And yet Ari looked apologetic at my statement. Right. She thought she was a burden.
It should be no problem living as a human. After all, I don't have a wolf.
My wolf sniffed at Ari.
Mate.
Deep down, I didn't believe that she had no wolf. There was a familiar aura about her, and my wolf recognized his own kind, but her wolf was silent, and the moon turned her down. Why? There's something else about you. Something that's just completely different than the usual wolf. She glanced at me again, and without thinking, I reached out and touched her cheek. You're not quite human. She looked frightened. I didn't want her to be afraid.
What am I?
Beautiful. And that's why you're trouble. She sighed.
That again?
She didn't believe she was attractive. I focused on driving, taking my hand back. Just touching her face made the ache in my bones ease. We were driving past bigger buildings and high-risers now. There was a rundown apartment complex tucked into a corner, and I could feel Ari's anxiety shoot up when we turned into it and parked the car. I'll help you transition to this new life. She fiddled with her bangs and cast her gaze down. The rain eased up for a moment. I grabbed the bag I brought for her and got out of the truck. She hurriedly followed me to the second floor of the ratty building. I didn't like the thought of her staying here either, but at least it was well lit on the outside. More importantly, it was werewolf-free for the moment, other than myself. The apartment was musty, and there were a few stains on the carpet I was sure wasn't ketchup. The place screamed sketchy, the kind of place you would have trysts in.
The bed is the size of my last room.
Ari said, a strained appreciation trying to put a smile on her face. This scary, stained, bad vibe one-bedroom apartment was an upgrade for her. Goddess, I hated this so much. After checking the apartment to make sure nothing was left behind from previous use, I turned to ask Ari what she liked to eat so that I could get them for her. All I saw was her soaked shirt, her bra showing through, the raindrops sliding down her arms, and her lips and cheeks looking more flushed from the quick run up the stairs. I didn't need this kind of temptation. Shower and get warmed up. I'll get some food for the fridge. I didn't dare wait for a response. The sound of her voice right now would be too enthralling. I'd rip that shirt off of her so fast. Jumping into the truck, I went down 3 blocks to the 24-hour supermarket. I grabbed a basket and started tossing in things without thinking much. I should have asked what she liked. The cashier looked scared of me as I set the basket down. My knuckles were still a little swollen from when I punched the silo wall. I tried a reassuring smile, but the dried blood counteracted any reassurance. I didn't bother running to the car as the rain was falling stronger again. I was procrastinating. I got into the truck, set the bags of groceries on the seat next to me. I glanced at my sore knuckles and felt anger bubble up. I had punched it because Ari was misunderstanding things. My lick, my touch, my kiss. They could only ever heal her. That was the power of the bond. Ordinary wolves couldn't do that. They sometimes pretended, deluding themselves into thinking their wolf healing was bond healing. Anytime werewolves gathered, their physical strength increased. It was just a fact. But when you are bonded, the healing is almost instant. I could heal her completely if I made love to her, and I wanted to. It made me mad and sad she didn't feel the bond like I did. I wanted her to know. But what good would telling her do? She wasn't a wolf. She was too vulnerable, and in turn would make me vulnerable. I needed to be a strong alpha. I needed to put my pack first. I needed to concentrate.
Reed left so quickly I couldn't respond. A hot shower was a first in a long time for me. I only had a hose for watering the garden near the silo to keep clean with. The hot water felt amazing, and the dull aching of my muscles begged me to stay longer, but I got out in 5 minutes. Besides, there was no soap. Reed had left the bag of my things open by the bed. I found one of his shirts there, too. Was he planning on staying? I shook my head at my silly thought. He must have grabbed it by mistake. Again, the smell of fresh waterfall invaded my senses. The humidity from this storm was high. I grabbed what used to be an ankle-length sundress. It went only halfway to my knees now and fit tightly over my hips, but it was still wearable. Luckily, the bust area was elastic. I could feel that this storm would go on for another 2 days. At least now I didn't have to worry about the little side door rattling in the wind, or droplets falling from the crack in the roof, or the stone walls becoming slimy and cold as it collected condensation. Here was just a normal, beige apartment. Musty, but dry. Reed came back with a bag of groceries, his jacket all wet. The rain was back to being a downpour. I rushed over to take the bags from him, but he strode quickly to the kitchen and sat them down on the counter himself. Taking a look at what he got, I could see he shopped like a person who had never done the shopping on his own before. Enough food for a week, mostly meat, cereal and sandwich makings. But no fruit. I wasn't going to complain. Again, my silly head wondered if he planned to stay. These were all his favourite foods. I started putting things away in the fridge when he offered me an envelope.
Here's a couple thousand. I'll come by next month to check on you and give you more.
I don't want to be any trouble. That's all I was. A burden. He patiently waited until I took the envelope from him. Thank you. There were some shirts in the bag.
For you, so you don't go out looking like you stole the clothes off a grade schooler.
I couldn't argue with him based on what I was wearing.
Tomorrow, go out and buy some clothes that fit you and nothing sexy. I don't need to worry about that, too.
My brain finally conceded Reed wasn't planning on staying. Letting myself believe anything else, even for a moment, only served to hurt my heart. No need to be worried, and I will pay you back.
No,
I will.
I'm your alpha, and I said no.
Again, a defiance crawled up in me, and I was looking straight at him, speaking to him in a way a servant should not. You kicked me out, Reed. You can't boss me around anymore.
Boss you around?
Okay, you never bossed. But you get my point. I dared myself not to look away from his golden gaze. Finally, he said,
I suppose I do.
He started for the door. You're leaving.
You want me to stay?
He turned back. I couldn't ask you to do that. He turned to leave again. Reed? I ran the 3 steps to him. I tiptoed and kissed his cheek. It was in the spur of the moment. Something within me didn't want our connection to end. I meant it as a show of gratitude and goodbye. I could feel it was a mistake as soon as my lips touched his cheek. A shiver ran through Reed, and in turn ran through me. His hair stood on end, his eyes glowed. In a flash, he grabbed my wrists and pinned me against the wall. I squeezed my eyes shut, afraid of his wrath. He growled more animalistic than I had ever heard. He released me, and my feet touched the ground again. I opened my eyes just in time to see the door slam. He left. I had offended him. I shouldn't ever have kissed his cheek. I took a chance knowing this was the only moment I could get away with it. Reed hated me, for sure. I took his kindness and overstepped. Whatever small spark in me that fantasized Reed cared for me died. We weren't friends. We weren't anything but master and servant, alpha and nothing, not even an omega, not even a wolf. I felt like a mutt left in a box on the side of the street. My knees buckled and I slid down the wall. I was abandoned. Again.
I couldn't believe she actually kissed me. I slammed the door to the truck as I got in. I sat there trying to catch my breath. The damn truck still smelled like her. I could rush back, and the temptation to do so was compelling. That short sundress was no improvement to the wet shirt she had been wearing. The problem wasn't what she wore, it was that I loved her, and I was attracted to her no matter what. I found her so... No. I was leaving her here for a reason. I started the engine and roared out of the parking lot before I lost my nerve. I was beyond tied to her. Her life was my life. She had no idea how enticing her silhouette was, or how intoxicating her scent was, or how her voice saying my name sent shivers through me. I almost lost control. I took her show of gratitude and let it take me over. I growled in lust, and she was scared. It took everything I had to leave right then and there. I didn't want to scare her, and I couldn't be with her. I had to resist. I spent the first few months of my 19th year trying to ignore this pull. I mean, why with the halfling? She was nobody, or had been, until I woke up on my 19th birthday to find myself sleepwalking towards the cellar. She was my gravity. How could the pack possibly accept an alpha with a halfling wife? Still, I couldn't stay away. I loved it when I could catch her looking at me. She had to be so brave. Or maybe, I had hoped, she felt the pull too. It broke my heart to know she had no wolf awakening. She would never know me the way I knew her. She didn't even question why my touch healed her. Last night I had to leave the window cracked open to let in air because her scent was all over me. I tried to clear it before anyone else noticed. Then she was in my room with that jasmine scent enhanced by the actual flower. Damn it. Why did she have to kiss me? I wanted so much to turn my head just enough for my lips to meet hers. Almost to the highway, I realized that her kiss seeped through and mended my bones. No wolf, but still has the power to heal me? Not only that, I felt stronger. How was this possible? I slammed on the brakes almost too late as I was about to run a red light. The car crossing laid in on his horn. My claws had popped out like a damn fraidy cat. I was too stressed. I took a few deep breaths until my hands returned to their human form. I resumed driving, paying more attention to the stormy surroundings than the storm within. I was doing the right thing, I told myself. Being with me would only hurt her. People would go after her to hurt me. I needed to keep her safe so that I could be the best alpha I could be. This was best. This was best. This was... Oh shit, this hurt, I screamed, trying to release the agony. By the time I got back, my lungs were so worn out I couldn't growl if I wanted to. I thought I was walking to my room, but I found myself at the door of the silo. I opened the door, letting her scent wash over me. I laid down on her mattress. I couldn't stretch out because the room was too small. It made me upset that this was where she was kept all these years, while even the smallest rooms I had grown up in were bigger than the apartment I had just put her up in. I curled up, holding her pillow to my chest. I felt so exhausted and still in a lot of pain, but I couldn't be found here. I took the pillow and dragged myself back to my room.